Welcome back to another video on Gearsaw Studios, and today I'm going to show you how to build this snowy house. And it's technically called an Alpine lodge, mainly because I based it off the Lego set of the same name. And, well, it has a bunch of little texturings here, has a log pile, and even a campfire in front of it, along with a quite detailed and compact interior. So, without further ado, let's investigate how we can build this. Starting off for our build, find a nice flat area, preferably snowy. All I did was cut down a few trees in the snowy taiga, but you can build this in a grove or really just anywhere that has snow if you plant enough nearby trees. Then, what we want to do is make a tough brick foundation. And it actually doesn't matter the dimensions too much. I'd recommend a little square, but that's completely optional to measure it. That way you can make something more unique. Just make sure it is decently large. Then make said foundation about 4 blocks tall, maybe a little bit larger. And this build is strongly based on the Lego build, which is called Alpine Lodge. So if you ever wanted to have an inspiration image, well, you can look up Lego Alpine Lodge, and then you'll be able to get something that looks pretty similar to what this build is. And then, right here, I placed down some crimson trapdoors. This can be a window later on, and those are shutters. But of course, I'm going to take some creative liberties, add some plants, stuff like that. Then for our entrance, now that 1.21.4 is out, and that means I get to use pale wood, well, I decided to do this, and then I used a green terracotta for the bottom block, which creates a really interesting, well, aesthetic. It might not necessarily work, and you might have to substitute it out for spruce, but it's worth a try. Generally, I recommend making at least one thing spruce and trying pale for this build. So maybe pale floors and spruce walls, or the other way around. Perhaps something like this would work, which actually I think this works best. And then, from here, you can add a ceiling later on. Maybe only make it a 3 block tall ceiling, or potentially you could have the next floor up be visible, like this, and then we can add some stairs and slabs later to add supports. Either way, what we want to do is make a flooring here and a complete wall around the build. Windows aren't super important right now. Right here, you can see I have the square foundation, a little bit of stair and slab work here in order to make sure I can make the second floor slightly larger. And then you can see on this side here, I have room for a chimney. I know I used to call it chimby, but no, that's not the proper pronunciation, I'm sorry. Now, right here, you can see I've divided this into a few different areas. Right here is our main area. I'm going to make this a kitchen most likely. I'm going to try combining the functionality and the decorative sides of building into this. And of course, you can see the pale. Make sure that when you divide rooms, you keep the pale going through unless it's to the outside. Then, under the stairwell, you can see I have all these stairs. This can be a way to get to your mines in a more reasonable fashion than random trapdoor in the ground. Let's be honest, random trapdoor in the ground isn't the funnest way to get into a new section of your build. Anyways, make sure to include this crown molding right here, and it's some spruce. Yeah, pretty simple. For the stairs, you might have to leave off on that, considering that could get in the way. I mean, if I were to continue it all the way through, you can see it's not possible to get up on some parts. They're going to have to make potential changes on that. Who knows, the chimney could get in the way, but I think that's better reserved for the second floor. Either way, once you get onto said second floor, make sure it is pale. This works really well. And don't worry about it showing through, like right here. We can add little support beams, and then this will really add to that cottage feel of the build. We want it to feel kind of nostalgic in here, like this is all the way back in 2010, old Minecraft, except we have cool blocks. Right here, I have these support beams going across with lanterns. Potentially you might want to, if you have a piece where you can cover up, maybe put a bookshelf here to hide it. You might want to do something like this instead to keep the ceilings a little bit higher. Stuff like that allows you to make the build more compact, and thus more useful without having random lanterns in the way. Then on the second floor, you should do roughly the same thing, with well, you use less stone and you use more wood, and you might even want to try a log cabin style here. But here's the problem with log cabins. They're very expensive, and here's what I mean by this. So the outer block would be this. This is only for marcation purposes. And then what happens is you need all these logs for it. So it's up to you whether you even like the look of what a log cabin, well, looks like. But something like this could potentially be how your build looks. Of course, up to you whether you actually like this design choice. Personally, I don't actually like building out of complete logs. Right here you can see this admittedly rather rushed now I'm looking back a year later kind of build. Notice how I use planks instead, and then I only use logs on the bottom parts. And that's the problem with logs. It might be a little too much, and it's a little survival unfriendly, even though it's spruce. So personally, I'm going to stick with planks, which will allow me to keep the inner and outer walls, because notice how on the outside I have tough, inside I have spruce and green terracotta. I can keep them the same, which means I can do a little bit more when it comes to the build. Essentially, it's up to you whether you want to have different insides or outsides. And for the bottom floor, that's true. I'm going to have a different inside outside, but for the top, I think I'll leave them the same. Now, onto something else. You can see here, I have a cutout, and this is meant to be a balcony. So, I should change some of the blocks to be a bit more wooden, like this, and then I can get myself some dark oak. And with this dark oak, I can continue on to make a more interesting design out of fences. I can place down blocks. It's up to you whether you want to try placing down the blocks. I think I'll pass on that. And then I can do some fences. I'm going to use some fence gates along with it, like this. It's up to you whether you want to do spruces too. And you can see how this is an even amount, which means I have a fence on that side and a fence gate over here. That's not good. So what I can do instead is have two fences in the middle, and look, I now have a more unique pattern. Slight utility if you ever needed to get down. Hypothetically, you have an elytra and I can go further. And then we do this on the side as well. Make your necessary changes, such as making this pale, stuff like that. You want to have a balcony though. It adds a lot of depth to the build. With the floor plan complete for the second floor, doors included, of course, right here where I tried a little bit of a different lantern technique to give myself a bit more vertical room. Well, right here, I evidently have a block poking through, which means I'll have to put something above it. Then, we have the roof situation. Although I generally recommend to do interiors before roofs, I decided, well, it's time to mix it up because, sometimes it's impractical, but hey, why not? Anyways, what we want to do is find the center of the build, which I measured to be right here. Then I built a little flat area because otherwise it's going to be too tall. And then I do a one block staircase like this. Then, of course, once it collides with another roof, you just end it. Nothing really more to say about that. Then you put stairs on it like this. Afterwards, what you want to do is continue your stairs and then fill it up with a bit more spruce planks behind it. Of course, you still need to decorate this area, but it's a general placeholder. As to what you want the roof to be made of, you can either do snow or warped, something like that. Anyways, with this pretty goofy roof right now, it's time to start working on extending it. So right here, here's how you start it. You do a stair like this, and then you make it a little bit curved, and then you start your one block staircase, and then we can connect the two areas. It's up to you whether you want to make this a little beam that goes across, and I don't really have much of a preference on that. I guess I'll try both. And then you can also do the snow method, and of course, like its namesake, it is done with snow. Bring my hotbar real quick, get yourself some snow, and then some more snow. And what you do is you layer it in, well, layers. And when you do it like this, you can create this wavy effect that's not really possible with stairs or other things. And if you continue this all across, it looks really snowed in, which is a really interesting look. So it's up to you whether you want to try that or not. And also, because I had a block poking through here, I put carpets on it. Nothing too crazy. Take a look around, and then, afterwards, we can try doing an attic if need be. If you're doing the snow roof, chances are you probably don't want an attic and instead would probably want something like a basement, which is perfectly suitable. And later on, I might even add a few more windows. Right here, you can see I have all this snow for the roof, and well, it looks a bit more realistic. We don't have snow stairs. You can see a second example on this house right here. Although I can definitely improve upon this build, I'd still say the snow looks really good on it. Anyways, with that aside, you can see I also did something else. When the roof starts, I add more green terracotta, and then I make the whole thing out of logs. The interior is not done yet, but that will come in a moment. Essentially, we have this, and then we have the shutters. We can add more windows, preferably lining up with these stairs. Notice these little things here, I changed them a little, might have not mentioned it earlier. And then something else, the chimney. You can see I'm using stone bricks for the upper part. And what's interesting about this is that it introduces a gradient to the build. What I could do is make the bottom 2 blocks of this build alternate between tough and deep slate. Essentially, here, think of it like this. I can do a little bit of a gradient here, and then do it on the side as well, stuff like that, in order to make it a bit more varied. And then you can see how it looks a little bit taller despite its height not increasing. Not to mention, it adds some depth to the build by texturing and gradienting. I strongly recommend that you do this. Along with that, you can even add some stairs and slabs to the mix in order to simulate damage. Clearing my inventory real quick, adding some stairs like this, and then you can see how it makes it look a little bit damaged at some points. You can even mix in other blocks that aren't part of the build, usually like smooth stone for this, although your mileage may vary on that one. Essentially, try mixing in the other shades of stone into this, maybe even black stone if your build is dark enough, and well, you'll have a pretty nice house. The back is not done yet, but don't worry, I'm not a certain YouTuber, I do the backs of my builds. But a minor change I might do, well it's actually pretty major, is notice how I have this water here. Maybe I want to rotate this house. I know it's a little late in the process to do that, but consider it if you haven't started building yet. Maybe you want it to face towards something like this transportation route. We all love ice boats over here, so maybe give it a try. With some of the crazy foundational stuff going on here, it looks like it was built by a master builder. And fun fact, I'm not a master builder. Yet. TM. But anyways, you can see I've decorated it with the cracked blocks, the cobblestone versions of each block, and then I layered it around, then added this up-down pattern of these stairs going across the whole build. And when you do it like this, you can make any build with a foundation look absolutely phenomenal. You don't even need to hide the foundation or add weird segmentation. You can just leave it as is, and if it has enough depth like this, especially the chimney right here, it'll look good. Although this gradient does mean I have to build the basement out of deep slate, who cares? I get a really nice foundation out of all this. Anyways, for the interior, I've started decorating a little. You can see typical roof patterns, nothing new from the first floor. So you don't have to worry too much about this. If you're able to handle the first floor, second floor is easy. And then, I have an enchanting room, not finished yet. Notably, these areas up here are a little empty, so I'm gonna have to do something about that. But anyways, you can see I have an enchanting arrangement, a chest, so that way I can keep my lapis nearby, and then a painting because this whole segment was kind of boring. Then here, nothing yet, but this will be a bedroom. And notably, I have an odd number of blocks, which is really nice. Although I could do a double bed here, I could do a single bed here. So I have options. Up to you on that one. Anyways, the balcony, you can put a simple chair. You can do a really simple chair like this. I use this for my intros and such. Grabbing here from my toolbox, I used to build my pallets in game. That was actually only a few months ago. Wow, I feel old now. But anyways, you build it like this, and then you close all the trapdoors, and if need be, you can add a banner. Whatever color you want, but like this, and then you can potentially add a dark oak table. You know, this is kind of funny because dark oaks are more temperate than spruce by a lot, but still, I can have that there, maybe even put an item frame on it, stuff like this. Essentially, look at your build, and look at little areas like this. Even though I don't really have much I can add here, except maybe some minor wear and tear damages, like this, still, that little thing helps a little bit. And every time you do that, you make your build slightly more interesting. Who wants to see a flat wall of spruce when you can have something a little bit more worn down? It's not like you're experiencing this in real life, otherwise everything would be perfectly flat to our convenience. But anyways, you can have the chair here, item frame, who knows what can be put here, maybe a book. You can't even read in Minecraft, but who cares? At least it's not the book, the magical one that I keep talking about and will never explain. Yeah, that one will go right here. Just in case someone accidentally picks it up, it'll be quite dangerous. But anyways, right here, you can see I have an empty area here. It's just plain trapdoors. So I'll add some dark oak to it. And while I can't put anything on this shelf, though, it is something I can add. And yeah, it's not the best, but it's something. But every time you do this, even if it's not very good, it adds up. And then when you do enough of it, it looks super detailed. Maybe even add in some carpet, of course. Make sure it is not inhibiting your actual enchanting stuff. So that's already level 30 because this one right here, and I placed down the carpet, level 20, can't do that. And even though right here, oh wait, I can destroy some of the floor. Well, still, even though you can't destroy most of the floor for the sake of convenience, still, you can do some of it. Maybe just a little bit of carpet here, who knows. Even though I can't do that part, so maybe I shouldn't do this, still, it is something you can do. And every time you do this, the build gets ever so slightly better, even if you can't complete everything. Now, for this step, I added a little bit of a ring around the build. You can see a few spruce leaves, nothing too crazy going on. Eventually, I'll decorate a bit more of the outside with log piles, planting back some of the trees, things like that. Now for the interior, you can see I made sure it was very decorated. Feel free to pause if you are having trouble copying. You don't need to copy, in fact I generally recommend to make your own decisions from time to time, but anyways, you can see I put a TV here, you can hear a dog upstairs, everyone's trophy dog. And then, right here, furnaces are the ground, 2 smokers because it's the one you likely use the least, and then some blast furnaces, making sure none of the faces are visible. Then backwards looms, barrels going across for storage, and then a rudimentary sink, detector rails on top of the smoker, and then this little vent here. Then for this room, you can see nothing too crazy, it's a storage system, very small, because apparently people don't dedicate 4 double chests to gray stuff and still somehow run out of room. Like, is that just a me problem? Am I the only one who has 4 double chests of gray concrete? Anyways, this should be enough. I'm not entirely sure what are the storage habits of the average player. Down here, I'll add the basement later. And then, over here, going back upstairs, added a few more decorations with the bookshelves, little brewing station here, of course, using the chimney as a way to dig into the wall and add barrels for storage. Crafting table, sapling, stuff like that. The balcony, nothing too crazy. Over here, you can see a little area here, and so that way the dog is finally explained. Here's the bedroom. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to add any carpets to here because there simply wasn't any room, and who wants to have carpet going literally just across this axis. Anyways, we have the rare grove type dog with a dye involving orange and then like 5 reds, and you can see produces a nice Gearsaw color. Then right here, barrel, everyone's favorite lamp, ender chest, things like that. And then finally we can go into this room, and it's actually relatively unchanged. I just added a grindstone. And now with these changes and empty top but technically complete, well, it's now time to move on to the basement. The basement's not anything complex. If you're able to handle the upstairs floors, pretty much build it out of deep slate. Use some deep slate, maybe even put some blackstone towards the bottom, perhaps try a checkerboard floor. Just make an empty room and then fill it up with whatever you need. Right here, you can see I built the basement. Nothing too complex, could technically use a bit more texturing, but there really wasn't much to put down here, and besides, this tutorial is more about the exterior. So take a quick look. I can use the walls. Of course I do a checkerboard. I use concrete powder for this, which is an odd choice but works really well. And well, pause if you need a better look at it, but this is all that there really is. And a very simple shaft down. And then, up here, it's now time to begin our decorations. We can start by adding a log pile. And this is incredibly easy. I personally recommend using rails, not trapdoors. Why do I always want oak trapdoors? But anyways, right here, you can see, all I do is place down a few logs, nothing too crazy. And then, when I add the logs, I can start making a log pile out of them. Feel free to copy this if need be, but you can make a lot of unique designs out of this. And then, remove those blocks. And then right here, I can have a log like this. And now I have a log pile. Maybe you could strip a few of them, but besides that, you can add a few rails. Just like this, and now I have a log pile. And you can add little details like this. Maybe a campfire outside, plant a few more trees around to reforest the area, maybe even a little bit of a path going around or a hanging sign somewhere. With some added trees around the area, which is probably slightly more dense than the actual forest surrounding it, and then a little bald spot here, you can see this place is now finished. And well, it's a house. Not really much more to say. If you're having trouble with snow getting everywhere, then try string. Here's all you need to do. Ta-da! Yep, that's all you need to do. Don't want snow somewhere? String. And yes, you could use this to make pathways in the snow, but personally I find that really annoying to do. So, basically, it's finished. And here's a quick look around in case you want to see it again. Of course, we have our first rooms, we have a TV which is kind of clashing with the aesthetic. We have some chests, an apparently normal amount. I do not understand the chest habits of a normal Minecraft player. Then, a basement, very barren, but can be filled out if need be. And then, bedroom here with the trophy dog, because we never want to lose our dogs in combat. Enchanting room, not too crazy, but it has an empty shelf here made with stairs. And then, over here, I have a very basic balcony, which might need more lighting / string. Well, with that, it's the end of today's video, and you can see this house is here. So, if you enjoyed this video, remember, please like and subscribe, it really helps me out. Either way, enjoy the rest of your day. Gearsaw out.